Hi, my name is Brooke Raulerson. I'm here with the Floral Greens Farmers of Florida, and I'm actually in a Pittosporum fernery here in the state of Florida where Pittosporum is grown. I've learned some amazing things about Pittosporum. It's actually the third most produced, most popular product that they have here in Florida, and I use it continuously every day and never knew that it grew like this in massive plantings. One of the things that I just learned about Pittosporum is actually that it can't stay in the same location growing and thriving for decades like the other crops do. So the Pittosporum has to be grown, say this one is like about 7 years old, and then it has to be taken down and something else has to be planted in its place. So it's constantly moving from one location to the other so that it's not going to be decades and decades of Pittosporum in one location. It's very interesting because I use Pittosporum so much in my shop, and I use it as a staple, kind of replacing a lot of the other greens that I've used so much of. I just wanted to change it up a little bit. I love that it's variegated because it kind of lightens up my arrangements, especially when I have so much rich dark green. I can actually use the variegation in it to give me some light coloration so that you can actually see a lot of interest in my designs. So I'm going to do a design here for you today. And basically what I'm going to do is a mock garland. I know a lot of people love those low, long greenery garlands, and sometimes we need a vessel to actually have that water in, and we want it to last a little bit longer. So I've got this kind of like trough style arrangement or container, and I've got just the floral foam level with the lip of the vessel. And what I'm going to do is kind of show you how I would do like a mock garland in here. And so what I'm going to start with is just the Pittosporum because, I mean, you can get so many uses out of it. I'll show you right here with the pit that we have one stem right here. So I'm going to cut off the top pieces and use those, but then the piece right underneath it, this segment, can also be used. But I use the tips to where it's going to be the most focal, where you're going to see it the most, so it's got the clean, beautiful tip on the end of it. And then the cuttings that I'm going to use, because I don't want to waste the cutting pieces like this. This has beautiful foliage all the way around that. I'm going to use that in the center of the design where I might place another layer of foliage right on top of it. So then I'm not wasting any of this pit. And I'm just going to go back and forth just like a garland would be. Here you can see another stem, but look at the amazing pieces that come off of this one stem. So that's how you get a lot of value with your greenery, so that you can use all of these pieces as individual insertions into your arrangement. And what I'm doing is actually cutting the pit and making the shape of the arrangement. And I'm going back and forth, left to right, to kind of give it more of that appearance that it's very natural. And again, using that piece in the middle like this, I'm just going to cut the stems off and then use that really far down so it covers up a lot of my foam. And I'm going to do one more piece just to kind of cover up my mechanics. Keep in mind that every time you use greenery, you do have to kind of drape over the side of the container. You don't want everything kind of flying as you have, you know, like everything going upwards. You do want to use some pieces that are going to drape over the side. And I actually can go as long as I need to with this design just because I can go right through the handle. And you can see how I can extend that on either way with the beautiful Pittosporum. And then I'm going to add some other types of greenery just to kind of give it another layer. So here's the Plumosa, really light and airy. And this is a great way to add the Plumosa on the top that gives you a beautiful kind of veiling effect over the Pittosporum. So I can place it going, the insertion is actually more upright, and then I'm just going to pull it down and loop it around some of this Pittosporum to kind of just give it that flowy feel like a garland would be. Now, one of the things that most all the farmers do in Florida, they actually have garlands that they can make for you in your own recipes, which is amazing if you want something quickly made. But if you're just making an arrangement like this and you don't need the actual garland, you can just do a mock garland. The benefit of doing this is it actually has a water source. So this will last much longer than you would typically have like a garland. Greenery lasts a very long time, especially all of the Florida foliages. The quality and the levels of experience that we have to grow all of this is much higher than you would typically get, say, if you were going to cut something out of your yard. So it's really important that you actually get foliages that are grown for cutting, which is why you have the name Floral Greens. That is for the cut flower industry. And then I've got just some Monstera, just to poke in certain spots, just to give you a little bit more of a focal because it's a solid leaf. And one thing I love about Monstera is just because the Monstera is actually very large. So if I need it to be a little bit smaller, I'm just going to take my knife down the center of that leaf and follow the veining. And there I have half of a leaf. So it doesn't have to be the full leaf. It's important that you keep the one that has the stem on it for your arrangement and discard the other half. And this gives me another piece of interest that's not just a full leaf. And then I'm just going to continue up with the pit, putting on my final layer of this arrangement, which is just my beautiful tips to the Pittosporum. And as you can see, the variegation of the Pittosporum against these dark green foliages really pops. And then, of course, as I'm walking through the Pittosporum, I grab a little bit of Spanish moss, which we have lots of in the state of Florida. This is not recommended that you just pull this off of the ground and you put it in things. It needs to be treated for bugs and what have you. So I'm just going to gather up a couple pieces like this and just give a little bit more interest like that. That is a true southern green arrangement with the Spanish moss in there. You can add flowers to this if you want, or you could just leave it as is and have beautiful mixed foliages in your arrangement. So there you have a arrangement with Plumosa, Monstera, variegated Pittosporum, and a nice little accent of Spanish moss. So I'm here in the Pittosporum patch, and you can see two different types of Pittosporum. One, we have the dark green, which I really like when I just don't want to have any variation in my arrangements at all. I really want to show off the flowers. Then I'll use the dark green, the solid green Pittosporum. And on the other side, we have the variegated, which really kind of lightens up the whole arrangement and gives you that beautiful variegation. Not to mention that Pittosporum lasts a very, very long time. And while we're on that fact, this is a very important point to make, that you make sure that when your Pittosporum comes to you, it's in a box. Make sure you keep the plastic lining over your Pittosporum so it doesn't dry out. It stays cool. And you want to keep it as cold as you possibly can without freezing it, because the Pittosporum will last much longer for you that way. But the most important thing is just to remember, cover that Pittosporum back up with the plastic. I know we get crazy and hectic and we go in there and we pull things out of the box. As a designer, I see it all the time. We just get in a rush, but to prevent all of our Pittosporum from going bad or any of our greenery, we need to keep it in the box in a cool location in your cooler and then wrap it back up so it doesn't lose any moisture. So here I am. You can see how large this Pittosporum is, green and variegated. You choose.